Hello and welcome to session 1 from the International Student Careers Series. This session will be an introduction to the International Student Careers Programme, some key concepts to underpin your individual career project planning and an overview of the UK job market. My name is Gemma O'Donoghue and I am one of the careers consultants. I have a special focus on supporting international students. I run this programme and you will likely see me in all the series of live workshops and the international drop-in sessions. Here's a bit on my background, and this slide also has my email, so please feel free to get directly in contact with me. This session is one of 5 workshops that are all part of the Career Support Programme for international students. The programme is also made up of a LinkedIn group called the University of Southampton International Talent Community. There are also regular 15-minute appointment sessions with me, the International Student Careers Consultant. These are advertised via the LinkedIn group and also bookable on My Career. You'll find them in the same place that you book RC Advisor appointments. You can sign up for the workshops with this QR code. If you have missed one, don't worry, you don't have to do them in order. Just join in when you can. They are repeated throughout most of the year. You can use this QR code to join the LinkedIn group. If you are listening to this session as a recorded version, do try and come along to some of the sessions in person, where we will have live discussions, group exercises, time for questions, and you can benefit from the knowledge within our diverse group of international job seekers. This programme is designed to enhance what our careers service already has on offer, not to replace it. As an international student, you can already access everything else as well. This is just something extra. As most of you know, there is already full career support provision available, which is all accessible online and in person. This programme is just to enhance our existing offering, something that is tailored for international and for postgraduate students by focusing on the experience hire job market and taking into account unique considerations that job seekers face when they are transitioning into a new job market away from their home country. It's designed to help you take a reset, to consolidate what you have learnt so far, but also to reframe and take a fresh approach, structuring your own individual situations and planning your own careers projects, which you will manage yourselves. This is to equip you with lifelong career management skills. As you know, there are big numbers of international students here, and even with the whole careers service, there is not enough capacity for everyone to be supported completely in a one-to-one setting all the time. So, with this programme, we are encouraging everybody to support each other through the LinkedIn group, the live workshops, and the events that we will hold, sharing information and tips throughout our journeys, and then, hopefully, staying on as alumni and as employers to support the next cohorts of students. This session should help you with getting to know the UK job market, identifying your own candidate profile, starting to think like an employer, knowing where to start looking for graduate roles if that's what you're interested in, and beginning to structure your own personal career plan. So what does it actually mean to be an international student trying to transition into a brand new job market? Well, first, I think it means you're amazing. You've travelled all the way across the world to a brand new destination and are probably learning a course in a second language. As a postgraduate student, which many of you are, you might well have professional experience already, and you might be feeling frustrated at how challenging it is to land your first job offer in the UK. You might have found it easy to secure your past roles in your home country, but maybe things are much more difficult now you are facing a new job market. You are in an unfamiliar job market. In the UK, job titles are unregulated and really confusing. Employers can call jobs whatever they want. Whether you are targeting the UK or another new country, you need to know things like where to find jobs, how different employers recruit, and what the etiquette for networking is. Each culture will be slightly different. Then there are visa rules. which are prone to change, as we know. Employers not really understanding what the visa rules are, so often refusing applications from international candidates altogether, and rarely making it clear on job adverts if visa sponsorship will be considered. You might be facing global possibilities. International candidates have already travelled across the world to study, so may well be considering other places in the globe as well. This can make career plans extremely complicated and sometimes overwhelming. As most of you are professional master's students, you may well already have career ideas in mind or even know for sure exactly what you want. But if you don't, if you're an undergrad or you're not sure what you want to do, you can access the main careers service for career guidance as well, guidance on career choice and career decision making. But in this programme, we do focus more on what we call the practical or transition skills and tactics to help you access the UK job market and the jobs you want. During this programme, there will be a running theme of viewing the recruitment process as if you were an employer. To understand why you are getting the responses that you are, why employers are making the decisions that they do, we need to understand the recruitment process and how it works. This programme will help you with that. If you think back to all of your hiring experiences so far, that includes job interviews, offers, rejections, even reading the job adverts, try and take a minute to imagine that you were the employer. Why did you make those decisions? And what is your overall aim? These are the things that we are going to be looking at during this programme. Employers are full of thoughts like these. How long will it take me to train that person? Will they be able to do the job? Will they fit in with my team? Will everybody like them? Will they enjoy the job? So how long will they stay? And will I be able to manage them easily? So they have structured their recruitment process around trying to gather as much evidence as possible to answer these questions. And throughout this series, we will look at the types of evidence that they are looking for and how they need you to present them so that they can measure them properly. This should enable you to have more control over the decisions that they make and the responses that you get. Remember, employers are just people, like you and me, and they're faced with a very difficult task. Here is an example of when thinking like an employer can help us. Let's take a common barrier to the job market for international graduates. That's visa restrictions. I am sure that a lot of you will have a plan already, and that plan may well involve aiming for a role in the UK with skilled worker visa sponsorship attached. Now, if we imagine that we are the employer, sponsoring a candidate for a skilled worker visa is a big commitment. It costs money. Legal support might be required, which costs more money. The rules are complicated, and you don't even know if the candidate you're going to sponsor will turn out to be any good. There are many things that we will consider around this subject throughout the series. But let's first think about the basics. If you were an employer, what would be the reasons that you might sponsor a skilled worker visa? Pause this slide and have a think first. Well, there is one fundamental answer, one answer that aligns with the UK's hiring legislation as well. If the best candidate for the job, the most suitably skilled person, requires visa sponsorship, then as long as the role meets the salary threshold and other requirements, the employer should, in theory, consider sponsoring visas. Well, that sounds great, doesn't it? It's not that simple though. Let's have a look at breaking this down a bit. If an employer should consider sponsoring your visa if you are the most suitable candidate for the job, how would they get to this point? Either they would need to find out that no other candidates, no one that already has the right to work, has the skills needed for the job, or there would need to be multiple people with the right skills, but the candidate who performs the absolute best in the selection process requires visa sponsorship. But how might this happen? Well, to find out that you were the best candidate out of all the applicants, they would have to meet you first, usually in an interview. But if they were rejecting people who need sponsorship at application stage, then they will never get to the point of interviewing or meeting or even speaking to you. And that's a reality. So how else could you meet them? Well, that will require some strategic career planning to start incorporating more creative ways of meeting employers, more than just applying for permanent jobs. Things like gaining opportunities for networking, which we provide loads of here at the university, by the way. Gaining work experience, short-term contracts, and even some courses will offer the opportunity to do your dissertation with an employer. What about if you are the only suitable candidate, the only candidate with the skills and experience that the job requires? Well, the employer would likely realise this at application stage. They wouldn't be getting any other suitable applications, so may acknowledge that they will need to sponsor a visa. But for this to happen, you would first need to identify which skills and job roles are in shortage in the UK or your target country, so that you are applying for the right jobs and not wasting your time. These are all things and subjects that we will look at in more detail in the other sessions. So don't worry about how to access these things for now. You just need to start thinking like this, like an employer, understanding the process and understanding their reasons for action, and how we might start to manipulate these situations to the best of our ability. This will all form part of your strategy, as this programme supports you in tailoring your own individual careers plans. So, thinking like an employer and understanding the recruitment process is one of the ways that will help us in accessing the job market. But this is only one tool, one way of thinking that will support your career planning. We also need to get into the habit of problem solving. As you've probably found out already, when you are looking for a job, especially in a new country, you are faced with constant problems, or challenges as we like to call them, which you need to overcome. This can seem overwhelming and confusing. A good approach is to face one challenge at a time, tackling rejections as they arise and incorporating what you learn from them to adapt your career plans in an agile way, making dynamic decisions as things change and you are faced with new information, also known as troubleshooting. Throughout this series, you will hopefully pick up some useful tools, concepts and information and learn how to apply them to your career plans. So, by the end of session 5, we aim for you to be excellent job hunting troubleshooters. But let's start first with the type of questions that you might need to be asking yourself to start building these habits. Students often come to the careers service describing the same problem. I've applied for hundreds of jobs and I just keep getting rejected, or not hearing anything at all back. And maybe they are expecting a simple answer, a magic solution. Well, let's just clear that up now. There is no single magic answer or way to secure a job, not for any candidate, whether you're international, national, experienced, or a fresh graduate. When faced with this, a careers consultant or information advisor at this point would ask you lots of questions. And this is what you need to start doing yourself, so that you can build the skills to manage your career on your own once you've graduated and once you've left university. So take 10 minutes now and ask yourself some of the questions on this slide. You probably know some of the answers already, and just thinking about them will help you plan what to do next. Pause the slide now and have a go. How did you find that? Hopefully the answers will start to help you break your career plan down into some simple actions. And if you don't know the answers, you know the next step is to find them out. For example, if your answer to what job titles exist in the UK in your target sector is I don't know, then you need to find this out before you can make progress. You could find out what job titles exist by conducting job searches, using skills as keywords instead of job titles. That way you will discover all the different names that jobs you are interested in could be called in the UK or in another country. But don't worry, we will look at this in more detail in session 2, which is actually on job search. What about if you are getting rejected on every application or not hearing anything back at all, and you're using AI to write your applications without sufficiently editing them? Then we'd need to look at that. And don't worry, we'll cover that too in session 5. Remember, this session is just an introduction. You are hopefully starting to realise that to plan your personal career strategy and to make it work, you will need to research your target job market, also known as the labour market, first. Getting to know the job market involves finding out what job roles exist, which ones are in demand, and in what sectors, so that you can identify a need. Remember, in recruitment you are selling a product, that's you, and a product won't sell when there is no demand for it. Skilled worker visas are designed by the government to fill skills gaps and to serve labour market needs. Think about it. That makes sense, and it is the same in most countries. So employers are more likely to sponsor visas when they have a skills gap to fill, when they have a need. Identifying job titles is a good place to start. Then you need to work out whether the sector you are targeting has a candidate or an employer-led market. What does this mean? Well, if there are more jobs than people applying for them, then the market is candidate-led. That means the candidates, the people applying for jobs, have more power. So the employers need to compete for them by doing extra things like sponsoring visas. But if there are multiple candidates that are suitable for every job, then this is an employer-led market, which means the employers have lots of candidates to choose from, more than they need. So they don't need to do extra things like sponsor visas to fill the jobs. So you can see it makes more sense to target jobs that have less candidates applying for them, which is why getting to know the job market first will form a solid base for a career plan. We are only at the start now, so you can begin by finding the answers to the questions on this slide. Pause the video now and see if you already have the answers, and if not, do you know where to find them out? Did you find that useful? Don't worry if you haven't got all the answers yet. These sessions and the rest of the careers service can help you with all of this. Let's look at a couple of examples now though. A good trick to identify which job roles are in high demand is to filter to those advertised by recruitment agencies. You can do this on job boards like Indeed. Employers will only be paying recruitment agencies to recruit for them if the skills and job roles are hard to find. This will give you a clue as to which job roles are in demand, and we will look at this in detail in session 2. In fact, there are many other ways we can find out detailed insights into the job market, like by seeing where past international graduates are working through using LinkedIn. And all of these techniques will be looked at in the other sessions in the series. Once you've got to know the job market, you need to focus on yourself and clearly define what's called your candidate profile. That is, what skills, strengths and experience you have. There are some questions to get you started in the table on this slide. Pause the video and see if you can answer them now. Once you've done that, you can apply your candidate profile to what you found out about the job market and identify where your skills and experiences will be in the most demand. International candidates' career plans will naturally be complex and contain uncertainty. You may discover after your initial research that the job sector or profile that you are targeting is not a candidate-led market. It might actually be saturated with candidates, with lack of a need for employers to sponsor visas. This is when you need to start thinking strategically. Maybe you have some past experience in a sector that is candidate-led, where there is real demand in the UK at the moment. Maybe you could adjust your career plan to target this sector first and enter the UK job market and then change into what you wanted later on. Each of you will have different levels of experience in different sectors, some more in demand than others, and in different countries. So, to tailor your individual career plans, you will need to consider many things. Each of you will have a unique profile and therefore a unique plan. Let's have a quick recap then. We've established that there is some planning and research to be done first if you want to build an effective career plan and make it efficient so that you are targeting opportunities that have maximum chance of success for your specific candidate profile. So, we know the first step will be to research the labour market. And as the UK is a new and unfamiliar job market for international candidates, let's now look at the different types of jobs that exist. Hopefully, this will give you a head start on your labour market research, and then we can dig down into more specific job titles in the next session. So, the type of job type that you are most likely to already know about is graduate schemes. If you are watching this recording in semester 1, it will be peak time for graduate schemes to be advertised. Graduate schemes are when organisations, usually big ones, hire groups of graduates in one go and put them all through a structured training period, usually maybe 1 to 2 years, which may include rotations around different departments to see where you work best. Most countries and most large companies have these schemes. It's these jobs that most people have heard of, usually because all of the big name employers have them and all of the international and global employers have them. They are characterised by an early recruitment cycle. They recruit almost a year in advance. You can see a rough guide to recruitment timelines on this slide. They are used to recruit future leaders, and in the UK, the majority do not specify that applicants need a certain degree subject. They recruit more for future potential and behaviour characteristics than technical skills. Of course, there are some exceptions to this for technical roles like engineering or those that require quantitative subjects. But the requirements are always stated in the job advert. You just need to read the details. They usually have competitive starting salaries and structured career paths within the companies. They sound great, right? But let's think about what this means for a minute. They will be really popular and really competitive. So do you think graduate schemes will be a candidate or an employer-led market? Of course, it depends what discipline they're in. Some sectors, like engineering, have less available candidates in the UK. But skills gaps like this are often at the experienced level, not at the graduate entry level. Remember, UK graduate schemes are designed to hire candidates with future potential. And the UK produced over 900,000 graduates in 2023, with over 130,000 of them being awarded first-class honours. You can research statistics like these with this web address I am showing you now, through the HESA, which is the Higher Education Statistics Agency. And to give context and find out roughly how many graduate schemes are usually advertised, you can use labour market information reports like this one here, the High Flyers Graduate Scheme Report, which will tell you which companies hire graduates and how many in previous years. This type of labour market research will help you to work out where your best chances of success will be and where to start targeting your applications. We also have another great resource for finding out about graduate schemes in the UK as an international student. eCareersGrad, which you can access under Resources in My Career or with the QR code on this slide, has an e-learning module called International Students Target the Right Employers. It details statistics on the top 100 graduate employers who have sponsored international graduates from student visa straight to skilled worker visa for the last few years. This will be useful to incorporate into your career plan so you have a better idea of what companies to target for graduate schemes, if that's what you're interested in. So, to summarise, the first type of job we have looked at, graduate schemes, are aimed at graduates either from undergraduate or master's courses. You will likely need some experience, whether that is paid or voluntary. This is really so that you have something to talk about in your applications and interviews. They are usually permanent contracts, but can be for the length of the training period, with a view to go permanent if your performance is good. They have embedded training in them. They are very competitive with lots of applicants, and recruitment is done up to a year in advance. They often have long and complex recruitment processes, including various tests and interview stages. Most accept any degree discipline. Here is an example of a job advert for a graduate scheme. They usually have the word graduate in the title. Even though graduate schemes are extremely competitive, it is still a great idea to include them in your career plan, as you can apply for them early on in the year, before you can start targeting the rest of the job market later on in your final year. It can be quite scary to think how competitive graduate schemes are. But this is the same for UK home students as well. A very small percentage of graduates actually go into graduate schemes. If you look at the job market as a whole in the UK, graduate schemes are actually just the tip of the iceberg, a tiny part of what is out there. So now let's look at the rest. Even if we are just looking at the graduate entry-level job market, before we even consider experienced jobs, there are many, many more jobs for graduates that aren't structured graduate schemes. There are many jobs that are suitable for graduates that are advertised in the general job market. Basically, any job that requires a degree or is entry-level and you don't need much experience. Those that might be suitable for a graduate. Recruitment for these will take place normally maximum 3 months before the start date, the same as most other jobs. So you wouldn't be able to apply until the end part of your final year. Salaries can range from very low to high, so remember you need to consider skilled worker visa sponsorship salary thresholds when you are applying for jobs. Remember, employers can't sponsor visas unless the role meets the salary threshold. Make sure you read the job adverts for jobs described as graduate roles, because this title can be used to describe a wide range of jobs, from great ones to low-paid ones without much potential. Here's an example of a job that's not specifically for a graduate. It's not a graduate scheme. It would just be suitable for that level of experience. Now let's move on to the rest of the job market, and that's a majority. Remember, the graduate market, whether that is graduate schemes or graduate jobs, is only the minority of what's available. If you are already an experienced professional, or even if you have a master's without much experience, there will be many more opportunities available in the experienced general job market, because these are most advertised jobs. Experienced hire jobs require specific skills and experience, which will always be detailed in the job advert. Application processes vary between commercial and non-profit sectors, and also between different companies. But don't worry, we will look at this in more detail in sessions 4 and 5. Recruitment usually takes place 1 to 3 months before they need someone to start. Here is an example of an experienced job. This example is for a people insights analyst, also known as a data analyst. I told you job titles were confusing in the UK, didn't I? You might notice here that you could probably do this job with what you have learned in a master's with data analytics content. And this is true. Some master's programs will give you enough skills and experience to enter into the experienced job market, even if you don't have much experience in the form of work. You just need to read the adverts, as they will all be different. Then there is another type of job, jobs with potential. This isn't an official category, I made this name up, but it describes any job that might not be the one you were aiming for, but has potential to take you one step closer to your career choice. It's something you could do whilst you're on the graduate visa. It could be beneficial to you in many ways. It might get you some experience. It might get you to build networks and professional connections, a chance to prove what you can do to employers. Or it might simply be a chance for you to speak more English than you have been, if you need to build your confidence. These are the types of jobs that you might want to do on the 2-year graduate visa, when you won't have any salary threshold to worry about, as a kind of investment in your future career. Here is an example of one. This is a marketing administrator job. It might not be the level you are aiming for, but it could get you into a marketing department where you could show your potential. We have had many examples of when employers have turned permanent jobs like these into short-term contracts so that international graduates can do them whilst on a graduate visa. If things go well, they can sometimes lead to permanent higher level jobs within the organisation. It will all depend on the demand for your skills in that specific role or company. Then there are part-time jobs. Students in the UK usually work part-time alongside their studies to support themselves financially. This is often in non-professional level customer service type roles, just to earn some money. As an international student, you are also allowed to work part-time whilst you are studying, but please check your own visa restrictions to confirm. And I am sure many of you are already doing this. But if you conduct regular searches for part-time jobs, you will notice that there are also a lot of skilled professional level ones that may align more with your career goals that you could do while studying to continue building on your professional level experience. Jobs are often advertised as full-time, but the employers might consider part-time if you contacted them. Part-time jobs can also be combined with other part-time work. So you could have one job to earn money and one to build relevant experience, again, whilst you're on the graduate visa. Here are some examples of skilled part-time roles. We have a section in My Career specifically for part-time jobs. This is called the UOS Job Shop, which you can find under the Search tab in My Career. The job types we have looked at so far have all been permanent contracts. In the UK, a permanent contract is when you are contracted to be employed until either you decide to hand in your notice, which means you tell the employer you are leaving and work your notice period, which is usually about 4 to 12 weeks, or the employer terminates the contract. But in the UK, this is not that easy for the employer to do. For permanent contracts, either a performance management or redundancy process needs to be followed. Permanent jobs are pretty permanent in the UK. Employees are well protected by the law. So I want us to just think about something for a minute. What this could mean for employers and for you as international candidates. If you are an international candidate on a visa and you are applying to any of these types of permanent jobs, the employer will need to commit to sponsoring you at some point, whether that is straight away or after your 2-year graduate visa is up. And as we have already established, sponsoring a skilled worker visa is a big commitment when they don't really know how the candidate is going to perform. So let's go back to thinking like an employer for a moment. You might be very nervous about committing to sponsor a candidate for a set number of years without seeing the work that they can do first. And not just in an interview. Anyone can perform well in an interview. You want to see how they will work over a few weeks or maybe even months. And this is where the next type of roles we are going to look at become really important for international candidates and their career planning. We are now going to look at the temporary job market. And first of all, this includes what we call fixed-term contracts. Fixed-term contracts are usually for experienced hire jobs. They don't usually have training or prolonged settling in periods. You just need to start the job and get stuck in. They are for a set amount of time with a set end date. This is what the fixed term means. Usually for 6 months to 2 years, maybe more. If you were hired on a fixed term contract, you would be paid and employed directly by the company. The same as if you were a permanent candidate, but this would just be for a set amount of time. A good thing is they often lead to permanent roles. And this is because they act like big, long interviews, giving the employer the chance to see how well you perform over time and really start to trust you, and most importantly, to rely on you and not want to lose you. This is when they might start doing things like considering sponsoring visas to keep you, or if you've done a really good job, that is. One really important thing we need to consider when thinking about fixed-term contracts is that they have a lot less applications than permanent jobs do. This is because people in permanent jobs won't usually leave for a temporary job or a fixed-term contract. I mean, why would you? It's risky. This means there is a lot less competition. We are creating that demand that we talked about. Fixed-term contracts can be used to build experience, and most importantly, can be accessed whilst on a 2-year graduate visa without needing sponsorship. Here is an example of one. It's a maternity cover. Maternity contracts are really common in the UK to cover someone's job while they have time off with a new baby. So imagine again that you are the hiring manager. It seems like there is a lot less risk in hiring someone on a short-term contract. If it doesn't work out, you don't have to keep them. So they are more likely to give someone a chance, maybe even if they don't have the exact amount of experience needed. The temporary job market also includes what can be called either temporary or contractor roles. These two titles are confusing, but they are used interchangeably in the recruitment industry, so you do need to recognise them. What we mean by temporary roles is hourly paid contracts that use an intermediary, so you will be paid and employed by a recruitment agency instead of directly by the company that you are working at. These contracts often have no end date, so they can be very short, 1 or 2 weeks, or they can roll on for years, but they usually fall somewhere in between, maybe 3 to 6 months. Again, the level of experience needed will be detailed in the advert. The good thing about temporary jobs is that the recruitment process is usually really quick, often just a CV and a short interview. And the recruitment agency will liaise with the employer to secure you the interview, so they'll do all the hard work. You can't secure an hourly paid temporary role without going through a recruitment agency, and this is why we're including them in our strategy. You will likely need to be able to start immediately, or at least within 2 weeks of when you apply. And this will be an advantage to you as a graduate, because you would not have a notice period to work like other candidates might. Hourly pay is usually quite high due to the risk of the contract ending at any point. They are often a way into a company that you might not be able to secure a permanent role with initially. Think about it. If there was a very popular employer advertising a permanent role, there might be hundreds of applications. But if there was a short-term contract, there might only be 1 or 2 applications. This could be your way into a company, where you can start to impress them with your skills and use it to open up other opportunities. Here are some examples of temporary jobs. As you can see, these are both paid quite highly. And these contracts are another example of something that you can do whilst on a graduate visa, to build your experience and to get into companies without having to have those difficult visa conversations. Okay, phew, that's enough information for now. We don't want to overdo it at this point. But this should be enough to get you thinking, and most importantly, to start planning. Remember, we're trying to take a complete reset on our career plans. You know a lot already, and might already have applied for many jobs, but it will help you if you go back to the beginning and start fresh with a clear plan. There are lots of tools and formats that you can use to make a career plan. Some people might prefer to use project planning software, or maybe even a pen and paper. But one tool that I have found extremely useful for organising complex ideas and plans is mind mapping. You can get special software to create mind maps, but you don't need to. Here is an example of one that I've started to make in Microsoft Word. So you start with your main aim, which may be slightly different for everyone, but will likely revolve around getting a job. Think about what your broad aim is. This example shows somebody that getting a job in the UK is their main aim. Then you break down everything you need to do to get there. Start with the big actions, like labour market research, and then break them down into smaller and smaller manageable pieces. So here, labour market research has been broken down into 2 sections, graduate jobs and experienced hire jobs. And this is because that's what we've looked at in this session. I've broken graduate jobs down into 2 manageable actions. What I like to do with mind maps is when I break something down enough to a single manageable action, I like to colour that box in a different colour. I've used yellow here. So when I look at my plan quickly, I can see that all the yellow boxes are my next actions. So you can see here, for researching the graduate labour market, I've broken it down to 2 actions. First, completing the eCareers Grad Target the Right Employer module, and second, to read the High Flyers Graduate Report. The most important thing to remember is that your career plan will change after you learn something new. So after the next session, it will change into something different. This is just an idea of how to start one. Here is another example, this time with a slightly different aim. This person is considering other countries in the world as well. So their broad aim is just to get a job that earns them a certain amount of money and that they're interested in, but they don't mind which country. So this means they have much more to consider. So here I've broken down labour market research into the UK and other countries. For the new countries section, there are a few quick actions that you would need to do first, like identifying which countries speak English or your native country for business use, clarifying the visa rules, and then conducting labour market research. I've linked the labour market research action back to follow the same process as you would in the UK. So in these mind maps, you don't need to duplicate actions, you can just link them. Don't forget to keep your plan agile and include dynamic decision making. That means if something changes, go back to your plan and adjust it. We will revisit this plan again and again throughout this series. This slide shows you the instructions on how to create a mind map in Microsoft Word, so pause now and get started. Here is a recap of the resources we have gone through in this session. eCareers Grad has a great module for international students targeting employers that sponsor visas. The University of Southampton Careers Hub has information and support and a wide range of resources to help with everything that we've covered in this session and the rest in the series. Search the UOS Job Shop on My Career to find part-time jobs. And sign up for the rest of the International Student Careers Programme and any related events, including alumni panel and employer events, through this QR code here. Here are some resources and places to access support if you need help with visa information or advice. The University of Southampton Visa team run virtual question and drop-in sessions 3 times a week. You can access them here with this QR code. There's lots of information on the Student Hub Visa page, which is always regularly updated. And outside of the university, the UK Council for International Student Affairs is a great resource. Their website interprets all the information from the government site, which can sometimes be a bit confusing. And last of all, the University of Southampton pays for LinkedIn Learning, which you can access only while you are a student here. This is a fantastic resource, so please make the most of it while you are here. You can learn so many different things on LinkedIn Learning, from a new software language to a whole range of project management methodologies or different management strategies. There are courses from beginner right through to advanced levels. So, while you are assessing your candidate profile and researching the job market, if you notice any skills that are required in the job adverts that you need to brush up on or new ones that you need to develop, LinkedIn Learning is a great tool to use. So that's it for this session. I hope you found it useful and really look forward to seeing you in some of the live workshops if you can make it. If not, the rest are all recorded in the same place that you found this one. Thanks for listening and see you next time.